Hey there. I would like to show you today how you can use the 8x8 SMS API to send and also receive text messages in your application. So I will walk you through the process and highlight a couple of important aspects that you need to consider when utilizing this API. But you will see it's fairly simple, and you have most of the information you require online as well. So to do this, I actually built the scripts already in Node.js. You can utilize the technology that you're more comfortable with. In my case, that would be Node.js. So I just built two scripts, one to send and another one to create the webhook that will receive and digest the incoming messages. So starting with the one that sends text messages, um, what I can show you here is that it's a very simple script. I'm actually using Axis for that, but you could use again whatever you feel more comfortable with. Um, so what I'm just really doing is calling the SMS API with three arguments here. One is the source number, and that is the number that will show up in the SMS. That's the origin of that SMS. Another one is the destination. That is the destination target of that SMS, the number that will receive the SMS, and then finally is the text message that you are already sending. So those two, I'm actually receiving that as part of the arguments of my script. The first one I'm hard coding, and that is a numeric number because I want to reply back. It could be an alphanumeric number. If you're familiar with SMS, you know that at least in Europe, in most countries, you are able to send a text message also using alphanumeric. You have up to 11 characters to send. You cannot reply to those, but you can still use that. As a sender ID. If you're in the US and in most countries in the world, you would probably prefer a numeric sender ID. Also, if you want the customer to reply back to that, you definitely need a sender ID. Now, where do you learn more about the structure of this API? It's very simple. Just go to developer.8by.com, navigate to send API, SMS and API. They will find all the information required. You will also find information regarding what I just said regarding the alphanumeric numbers and the sender IDs and the different sender IDs that you have. It's very well explained there, and also the structure of the API itself. So I'm using the basic structure of the API again, just requires the source, destination, and text. Now, two very important aspects on the script that you need to consider. One is the authorization aspect. So 8x8 obviously needs to authorize this script to be run. So you will find your sub account ID. That is one of the aspects you require, and the API key as part of your 8x8 Connect account. So if you go to your 8x8 Connect account, you just navigate to API keys over there, and you'll see all the sub-account IDs that you have enabled on your account. Just select the one that is SMS enabled for the country where you want to send that message to. In my case, it's this one, and that's the one. If you see it, that's the one I'm utilizing as part of the URL for the API. And finally, the API key will also be showing that. So the API key, you can just use whatever API key you have here as long as it's active. Okay. Going back there, another important aspect is if you want the number to reply back, just be sure you use a number that you got through 8x8 as well. So you can see this number ends up in 620. If you go to my 8x8 Connect account again, if you navigate to numbers, you will see that all the numbers are there. You can actually check the details of the number over there. If you click on View Pricing and Logs, you see there is no callback URL, which means that I could try to text this number, but the message wouldn't go anywhere because there is no webhook configured yet. So the number is on my account, but if you text that number, won't go anywhere. You will see what I'm going to do to configure that in a second. First, let's go back to the script here and let's put it in action. So if everything goes well, all I need to do really is to call my script now, send it to my private number, something like, hey, are you there? So just executed the script. I just received a response from 8byte saying that the message request was accepted. So I should be receiving the message. There you go. So I just got the text message on my phone, and now I need to reply back. Again, if I reply back now, the message won't go anywhere because I haven't configured the webhook yet. So let's take care of that. The first thing I want to do is to enable Ngrok. So I want this to run on my local host. So I'm using Ngrok for that. If you're using your own server, just use the IP address or the URL that corresponds to your server. In my case, I wanted to use my own machine, so I'm using Ngrok to simulate and provide me with a public-facing URL. So to know which port I'm going to use, I'll just open my script here. That will be the receive SMS. And as you can see, there is hardly anything complicated here. If you're familiar with the Node.js, what I'm really just doing is I'm receiving a text message, or I'm receiving, in this case, not even a text message, I'm receiving an incoming HTTP request. So I'm creating my own HTTP webhook on port 8088 and an API on -SMS that will essentially get that message in and display the content of that message. So it's very simple. I'm just really displaying everything that and printing everything that I receive, right? So nothing complicated and honestly, nothing really specific to the 8x8 webhook as well. So what is really, really specific to the 8x8 API is really how to configure that webhook. So we can now have this up and running. So let me just put Ngrok listening on port 8088. Now I have Ngrok listening for requests on port 8088. I have now my URL, and I know already what is the path that corresponds to my webhook. So I now can tell 8x8 to send all the incoming messages to that number to my webhook. So we can do that by using the 8x8 API to configure webhooks. So I have already a script that simplifies the process doing that. So it's very similar to the script that you just saw. The difference being I'm using the account ID on the URL path, and then the sub account ID, I will pass it as an argument of my script, but then the API key would also be the same. So the structure is very similar. Obviously, now the difference is that I'm using an API that will configure the webhook on my number. So if you want to know, again, more details about that, you just go to developer.8by.com, you navigate through webhook configuration API, you go to create or replace webhooks, and you have all you need to know about the structure of this webhook, okay? So again, it's very, very simple. What I'm really doing here is telling 8x8 where it needs to send the content of the messages I'm receiving on that number, right? So again, I'm receiving the sub account ID as an argument. I'm saying that this is for mobile origination messages, so SMS. It essentially means that I'm configured to ASMS, and then I'm expecting the URL to which I need to send 8byte needs to send the incoming messages. So let's try that out because now we already have the information we need. So let's configure that webhook right away. So the sub account ID that is SMS enabled, you can go to 8byte connect. You can see which number corresponds to that sub account. So you can see the number 620 over there corresponds to this sub account. So this is the one I'm going to use here. And as for the URL, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste the URL that Ngrok provides me, and then I just add the /SMS over there because that corresponds to my webhook. So let's configure this to 100K. So awesome, everything should be up and running now. Last but not least, let's activate my webhook. Now it's listening to messages, incoming messages on port 8088. So now let's reply. Yes, I am here. And if all goes well, 8byte just received the message and will display here in a second. And here we go.